Good morning or good evening to you wherever you are in the world. I am back. Let's get another coffee hour in today. We have a lot of exciting news. The weekend was jam-packed full of news, and then a lot of it got updated today. You're right. A lot of it just keeps changing. It's like a roller coaster with this guy. All right, and I'm speaking about the president, of course, because you have him saying one thing and then his cabinet saying a completely different thing. It's like the messaging is off kilter, I think is the phrase. So, things just keep changing rapidly in this environment, in this administration. So it's hard to keep up with everything. But we do have a lot of exciting news to cover. We're going to be covering, a little bit about NVIDIA, because NVIDIA came out with some news and their shares popped. We're going to be talking about Palantir. They had some great news that came out and their shares popped. And as you guys know, I'm long on NVIDIA and long on Palantir. All right, and then I'm going to be talking about kind of just general market news, and then wrapping it up with some new additions that I have to the portfolio that I made yesterday, or today rather. And, I'll just kind of give you guys my thoughts and my thesis on this new ETF that I did purchase. So we're going to cover all of that and more in today's stream. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. All right. So this is the portfolio today. As I said, the annual income is always going to fluctuate whenever dividends get paid out. But right now for the year, we're looking like we're going to be making $33,000 or close to $34,000. April income is expected to be about $3,200. And then, of course, we have the dividend yield sitting at 13.8%. All right, these are the portfolio values. All right, I do have two portfolios. I have one on Robinhood, which is more of an income-focused type of way of investing, which has been an absolute wild ride this last month. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and some spiraling moments, but thankfully made it through all of that, all the craziness that was going on in the world, and was able to still come out, relatively unscathed. I'm not going to say I didn't make some mistakes over the last 30 days, but, still hanging in there, still staying tough, and keeping my money invested. All right. And then I also have a portfolio on M1 Finance. This is more of a long-term position. Basically, it's just real estate, REITs, and a tech ETF in there, which I'll cover towards the end of the stream. All right, so like I did mention, I do have a brand new holding, which I will reveal towards the later part of this stream once we get through all the market news. All right, so with all that being said, let's get into the rest of the segments. So fear and greed, we are doing A-OK, all right? Not too long ago on Friday, we were sitting at like 3 or 4, and now we're up to 19. So I think the general market is starting to feel, some reprieve. We can breathe a sigh of relief as things are starting to get, a little more certain, but it's still very unclear, very muddy in the water, especially with, what can our president do next, right? There's just so much news, like you cannot keep up with this guy. It's so hard to keep up with him. I went, just for today, I think he's had like 2 or 3 press conferences, and he's taken a lot of questions. So I couldn't even get through all those videos in time to at least, get my notes together. But in any case, you still have Scott Bessent, Secretary of Treasury, that was down in Argentina, which we'll cover here in a moment. But again, keeping up with the news is almost a full-time job. At least to bring, at least the investor side, right? Because a lot of what's happening in the macro, political, does have an effect on us as investors. So we just have to keep that in mind. And yes, I know politics and, finance, they intersect, but, we have to remember to keep a cool head when we talk about politics. And, remember, we're here to make money, right? We are investors. We're here to make money. So fear and greed, we're doing okay. I say all that to say we're doing okay. All right. We're moving past extreme fear, hopefully into fear. But again, we still have 90 days to go. The current administration put a 90-day pause on tariffs for most countries with the exclusion of China. But even so, even with that pause, everything's just been reduced to 10%. Right. So call this the art of the deal, call this a chess match, call this whatever you want to call it. It's just getting real spicy out there in geopolitical land. Right. Especially when you look beyond that, you still have everything that's happening in the world. You still have a potential invasion of Taiwan by China. You still have all the conflict happening in the Middle East. I can go on and on about that stuff. I just love like understanding the world stage at a bigger bigger view, because it does impact us. It does have an impact on us as investors, because again, the stock market, very emotional. It's people behind those screens, right? People behind those investing dollars. And when there's a lot of certainty, when there's a lot of fear in the markets, you know, potential wars, potential conflicts, invasions, things like that, that really makes investors, you know, get out of equities. And another interesting thing, which I didn't, you know, I found out over the weekend, we are back in Afghanistan. I don't know if you guys know that, but we are actually back in Afghanistan. So the United States, and I know this is not finance related, but you know, I'm going to get off this here in a second, but we are actually back in Afghanistan, which was surprising. You can read about that. We're actually have a small amount of people at Bagram Air Base, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. I was in Qatar when Bagram was evacuated, so you know that, and I've been to Bagram Air Base. I'm sure if there's any veterans in this community, you know, I'm sure you've probably passed through Bagram or been in Afghanistan, so you know what that place is like. So, anyways, let's move on and hit the the American Association of Individual Investors. So they ask this question every single week: what direction do members feel the stock market will be in the next 6 months? So last week I didn't cover this because I didn't stream the last couple of days, but basically we're looking like we're slowly starting to inch towards bullishness again. Okay, and again, this changes week by week, but this just gives us a gauge of how the market is feeling and how people are feeling. So again, I like to check in on this, you know, once a week, and just, you know, share it with you guys so you guys can, you know, kind of see where everyone else is kind of feeling. But again, you're seeing it in real time, because if you're freaking out, you could probably guess what the rest of the market is doing as well. All right, let's get into the stock market. So NASDAQ, SP, and S&P and the Dow closed higher as Trump temporarily shields the tech sector from tariffs. So we had a huge rally today in the markets. A lot of people, you know, invested in either the Mag 7 or, you know, tech focused ETFs or technology stocks, you know, got to see a huge spike, but it looked like we started to have a pullback later in the day. So I don't know if you guys noticed that or caught that or didn't care enough. But, you know, it was something that it was like we started spiking all the way to the top, and then we started going down. I was like, oh crap, we're headed into the red, but luckily not. Right. Luckily, we ended the day in the green. Major market averages ended higher on Monday as President Donald Trump announced temporary exemptions on tariffs on smartphones, computers, and other electronic predominantly imported from China. The move eased investor concerns over escalating trade tensions and provided a boost to technology stocks, helping to drive the broader market higher. All right, so right now we all know that the United States and China, they're having a tit for tat tariff war, basically a real trade war. China's not backing down. But the U.S., you know, the messaging is at first, you know, really staunch, really hard. Hey, you know, you retaliated against us. This was all, you know, kind of a ploy to see how you know, what you do. You need to lower your tariffs for us to lower our tariffs. And then, you know, it got really stupid, right? But now it seems like the messaging is starting to change a bit, where, you know, you have Scott Bessent saying, hey, the door's open, right? You have Commerce Secretary Lutnick also saying, hey, the door is open, you know, to have a conversation. So hopefully China will come to the table to negotiate some new trade deals or something a little more favorable, right, towards the United States. I could honestly see that if these trade agreements are starting to get announced, even if talks start beginning, I could see that the markets will rally after this. I really think the markets are going to rally as soon as we hear the United States or Donald Trump talking with China, Xi Jinping, right? President Xi Jinping. So as soon as those conversations start happening and they start talking about, you know, probably lifting tariffs or changing, you know, tariffs or whatever, we should expect a huge market rally. When that will happen, no idea. I'm keeping an eye on the news because I just want to hear that announcement. I know it's going to happen this week. At least I feel like it's going to happen this week, because both China and the United States, they don't want a prolonged trade war. All right. Trade wars are very expensive. Not only for that, but you have, you know, at least in the United States side, you have political reasons. You have people who are going to be voting soon. right? So you don't want to piss off your voter base, especially when midterms are coming up for a lot of districts. So at least in my opinion, you know, hopefully these talks will happen sometime later this week. If not, we'll hear at least something about these talks between China and the United States, maybe scheduling in the future. And this will, you know, of course, rally the markets. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm hoping for. Of course, you know, riding on hopium is not a good thing, especially in this market. But, you know, again, that's what I'm keeping my eye on. So we have some big news about NVIDIA. So NVIDIA came out with a news piece, what was it, today, Eastern Standard Time, and yeah, basically the shares rallied. So you guys know that I'm huge into NVIDIA. I do have a sizable NVIDIA ETF position for, you know, 1-2x levered ETF. So, you know, anytime news comes out about NVIDIA, I'm really interested to hear what they have to say. And this news kind of plays into a broader picture of what's going on, right? This whole idea of forcing companies to bring back to onshore manufacturing back in the States, because again, this all plays to a national security piece. I'm sure you guys heard this in the news. All of this has to do with national security, right? We want to be able to it's not that we want to manufacture like t-shirts, right? We want to bring a lot of the bigger things here. Manufacturing of semiconductors, manufacturing of technology, manufacturing of, you know, pharmaceuticals, all this other stuff. Hey, James, what's up? Welcome back and good morning, sir. All right. So this whole idea of companies starting to onshore their operations, like Apple, you know, they're not going to onshore over here. They're just not. Like an Apple iPhone will probably jump to like $2,000 or $3,000 a phone, but you know, they're going to move out of China and probably move it to India, right? Which is a good thing for the United States, because we're trying to cripple China's, you know, grasp on the trade, you know, on trade. So at least that's what I think. That's just my thesis that I'm running with. And again, you know, I'm never going to bet against America when it comes to anything stock market related, when it comes to anything, you know, geopolitically, for obvious reasons. I'm not just going to bet against the United States, right? So anyways, NVIDIA to manufacture American-made AI supercomputers in the U.S. for the first time. NVIDIA Blackwell chip production starts in Arizona. NVIDIA opens first U.S. factories. This was actually really quick. I was really surprised at how fast they were able to get these factories up, because everyone's always talking about, you know, these factories are going to take, you know, months and months and probably years and years to build. But here we have NVIDIA coming out the woodwork and just say, hey, we opened our first U.S. factory, boom, right? But of course, it's not them opening up like an actual factory. They're partnering up with other people, which I'll get to in a second. Alex, hey, welcome. Rook, hey, welcome back, and hope you guys strapping for an exciting day. Hope you guys were all in the green, of course. All right, so NVIDIA is working with its manufacturing partners to design and build factories that, for the first time, will produce NVIDIA AI supercomputers entirely in the United States. Together with leading manufacturer partners, the company has commissioned more than 1 million square feet of manufacturing space to build and test NVIDIA Blackwell chips in Arizona, and AI supercomputers in Texas. All right. Interesting point about Texas. There is a data center coming online in May that has direct ties, or actually is part of the Stargate project. All right. And I know you guys hear me always harp on this whole Stargate project. It's because this is a project that is backed by the Trump administration. Okay. And the Trump administration, and again, just to give you guys a whole AI thesis, the Trump administration is trying to deregulate AI to make innovation easier for companies, right? It's going to be the wild, wild west, you know, out here in the United States when it comes to AI development, research, and innovation, which is a good thing because it's going to give the United States an edge in the AI space to maintain AI dominance in the world. All right. This is a big, broader picture, guys. And this is why it's important to understand the politics behind everything so you can invest accordingly. And this is why I'm really bullish on NVIDIA. So anyways, you know, along with the fact that NVIDIA is basically the biggest player in the AI space when it comes to hardware, right? When it comes to producing these GPUs, producing this, you know, ecosystem for the advancement of artificial intelligence. NVIDIA Blackwell chips have started production at TSMC's chip plants in Phoenix, Arizona. NVIDIA is building a supercomputer manufacturing plant in Texas with Foxconn in Houston and Wistron in Dallas. Interesting thing about this is that they're doing this with Foxconn now. So what happened to Supermicro? It's like Supermicro completely just fell off the wagon. I haven't heard anything about Supermicro in a long, long time. And again, I always said that Supermicro, the only reason why their share price has been, the way it is because of their partnership with NVIDIA. If that partnership went into the hole, Supermicro, I guarantee, is going to go into the hole. There's nothing that they do that's all that special, right? NVIDIA is the only thing propping up that share price, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe I need to do some more due diligence on Supermicro. But again, I just think, that with all the fraudulent accounting that they've done in the past, and not only that, if you read the Hindenburg research on Supermicro, they've done a lot of shady stuff. So I just don't like Supermicro at all. Anyways, within the next 4 years, NVIDIA plans to produce up to $500 billion in AI infrastructure in the United States, which we already know is the Stargate project. These world-leading companies are deepening their partnership with NVIDIA, referencing Taiwan Semiconductors, Foxconn. I've never heard of Amcor or Spill, so I didn't have a chance to actually look at those companies, Wistron or Wistron either. NVIDIA AI supercomputers are the engines of the new type of data center created for the sole purpose of processing artificial intelligence. AI factories that are the infrastructure powering a new AI industry. Tens of gigawatt AI factories are expected to be built in the coming years. So real interesting. Again, we're talking about a new data center, a new type of data center. Traditionally, data centers were full of rack-mounted, CPU, servers. They weren't really GPU specific. All right, graphics processing units versus, I forget what CPU stands for. Maybe computized or something like that. Computer processing units. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been in the IT field. But anyways, traditional data centers, they were more reliant on CPUs than they were on GPUs, right? And then you have not big players, but you have players coming out of the woodwork like CoreWeave that have data center centric, AI focused data center platforms coming out, right? Where they're just going to have GPUs, right? So you can see kind of a shift towards that direction. So now this whole idea of these AI factories coming out, I think it's just a good opportunity, right? It's nothing but tailwinds for artificial intelligence, semiconductors, or companies that are going to be involved in this space. It's nothing but tailwinds, in my opinion, of course, all right? The engines of the world's AI infrastructure are being built in the United States for the first time, said Jensen Huang, founder and CEO of NVIDIA. Adding American manufacturing helps us better meet the incredible and growing demand for AI chips and supercomputers, strengthens our supply chains, and boosts our resiliency. So, of course, we already know that. This whole point of tariffs and everything is to bring manufacturing back to the United States. That's what this whole, tariff war started, or how it all started. So NVIDIA bringing all that back to the United States is going to be a huge tailwind, at least, I think. Just want to check the chat real quick. Let's see. Oh, I didn't know AMD was in Arizona. That's really cool. Yeah, see, even that's a good idea. That's a good thing to know about as well. Is all these data centers, they're going to have insane amounts of HVAC, right? Insane amounts of HVAC. I don't know any major HVAC stocks to trade or anything, but maybe if you look a little deeper, like when you're investing into like a data center, you have to think like, what is the AI infrastructure, right? It's going to be Supermicro like server racks. It's going to be Foxconn motherboards. It's going to be NVIDIA processing units. Could be Intel chips, right? It could be AMD AMD server chips as well. So, if you start looking under the hood and kind of digging a little down, you can find out all these little other opportunities that might be out there, right? I don't know of an HVAC company, but hey, who knows, right? Certified, what's up, man? Welcome back. All right, so moving on. Strategy, all right? Strategy's in the news again. And I love covering strategy because man, I don't know. They're like the easy ones to beat up on. I'm not saying that, again, they're bad or good or anything in between. I just think that there will be some cascading effects for when an eventual implosion might occur if they do not get that tax exemption. That thing is still hanging over their heads, and I still have not found any new updates on that letter that was sent to the Secretary of the Treasury or the IRS on getting an exemption. So I don't know if that is going to come to pass. Again, we still have about 8 months for them to find out whether they're going to get it or not. But if they don't get it and they have to sell Bitcoin, this is going to be, it's going to have a cascading effect. All right, period. It's not going to be good. All right. Not only that, but strategy makes no money, right? So how the heck are they paying all these people who are investing into their strike and preferred shares? How are they paying that interest rate, right? Another thing. And not only that, but in their, I think their 10K or 8K or whatever that came out recently, they're basically saying that if they don't make enough money, they're going to have to sell Bitcoin in order to cover the costs for administration and paying out, dividends and all their other accounting stuff, right? So don't quote me on that, of course, because I briefly read through that thing. I didn't really read the whole actual item, so I'm not really sure what they would have to sell the Bitcoin for. I did cover it in my last stream, but again, if they do have to sell, it's going to have a cascading effect, a very bad one. So Strategy discloses Bitcoin acquisitions for $285 million for the last week. Bitcoin Treasury company Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, which previously did business as MicroStrategy, disclosed on Monday the acquisition of Bitcoins worth $285 million for the week ending April 13th. All right. So now they have an additional 3,400 Bitcoins. The company said the Bitcoin purchases were made using proceeds from the common at the market program. All right. So that's the ATM program that they were coming out with. So again, interesting stuff for this company. I don't know about this. I saw that, there was another prominent YouTuber out there that mentioned that msty, right? The yieldmax MSTR option income ETF, their margin maintenance ratio went up to 70%. That's crazy, right? Went up to 70%. And I think it was at 30 last time I looked at it. I don't know. That thing keeps spiking up and down. Maybe it's because of the volatility of Bitcoin, but also the volatility of MicroStrategy. A company should not be that volatile. Anyways, I looked at MSTR, the stock, actually as well, and found out that yes, even the stock went up in maintenance ratio. So again, is that a sign of what's to come? Is Robinhood or some of these other brokerages kind of worried? Who knows? But it is just an interesting thing. So anyways, I wish him the best of luck. I have nothing, on the whole, I have nothing against anyone that holds msty. As a matter of fact, you guys have my absolute respect, because to be able to handle that amount of volatility and that wild of a ride, that roller coaster, I tip my hat to you. I personally can't do something like that. Which is actually what's going to lead me into one of my purchases later that I'm going to cover on this stream. But you have my utmost respect, because I could not do some crap like that. Anyways, especially with all the news surrounding MicroStrategy. So let's see. Just checking the chat here. So Senpai says, so short MSTR or nah? I have no idea, man. I have no idea. Every time I look at msty margin maintenance, it's like 60 or more. Yeah, yeah, that's about right. Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, so Rook says, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. Hell yeah. Oh boy. Anyways, Palantir is in the news, all right? And you guys know I have a sizable position to Palantir, so anytime I hear news about Palantir, I always want to cover it. This was a big one, right? So on this channel, we talked about if Palantir can breach into the European market, into the European military, this is going to be a massive tailwind for Palantir, right? Because now not only are they servicing the United States government, but they're servicing another government's military, right? And they're going to be spending a lot of money. Okay. The EU, just some background information, right? Basically, the United States is in NATO. NATO is, basically a formation of countries to defend against Russia, right? Basically, that was the whole premise behind NATO. So during Trump's first administration, he made it a point that NATO needs to increase their spending for military, right? Then, Trump lost that whole election, and then he came back with a vengeance and said, NATO, you need to ramp this stuff up, because if this whole deal with, Russia and stopping the war in Ukraine does not come to pass, Russia has actually been more or less, kind of posturing for an invasion, it looks like, of the European Union, right, of certain countries in NATO. And if they invade NATO or a NATO country, there's an article in NATO. I think it's Article 5. I could be mistaken, but it's basically Article 5 that says collective defense, right? If you invade one of us, we're gonna all, you know, basically gang up on you. So, you know, the NATO countries have been increasing their spending on the military. And I was thinking, like, man, if Palantir can really get into that, because Palantir is the premier AI military defense company, period. That's it. They are them. So if they can breach into that market, this is going to be crazy for Palantir. I could see Palantir going like parabolic after this. And it looks like it's starting to come to pass, right? That thesis is starting to play out. And again, NATO, obviously United States, part of NATO, huge allies over there, a lot of friends, you know, we're going to be doing big league deals, etc. This, I knew, like, I felt like this was going to happen. Like, this had to happen. Palantir, again, you know, a lot of government contracts with the United States, and to give an edge to the European Union, or to give an edge to NATO, the NATO, you know, countries for, you know, their militaries and things like that. They're going to have to adopt Palantir. There's no other software AI company in Europe that does anything close to what Palantir can do. So again, I think this is a huge tailwind. So basically, sorry for the ads first off, and sorry for this. I can't change this for some reason. But anyways, Palantir stock rose 4.6 on Monday after NATO announced it had finalized the acquisition of an AI military system from the Denver-based defense tech firm. All right, details of the deal were not disclosed, but NATO said it would begin using Palantir's tech, the Maven smart system NATO, the MIS NATO, in the next 30 days. All right, MIS uses AI to compile and analyze data for battle space awareness and planning, including the identification of military targets. All right, so it's a word salad in there. It can mean a lot of things. I don't know specifically a lot about the Maven smart system, but I know that there was a lot of like rage around this system, right? The United States military has obviously adopted this, so this is just big thing, right? In the military space, you know, planners, you know, military planners and things like that. You know, there's a thing that exists called the fog of war. And what I'm thinking how this Maven system actually operates is it basically helps eliminate that fog of war. You know, it uses, again, AI to compile and analyze data for battle space awareness and planning. So, you know, they know probably the targets to hit. There's probably be some type of surveillance component in this. Again, I don't know too much specifics about the Maven system, but the fact that NATO is going to adopt it is going to be not only a tailwind for Palantir, but when you think bigger picture, you think broader, this will allow for interoperability between, you know, the militaries that are involved in NATO, because it's not just the United States plus the EU, right? It is exactly that, but you have to think about what makes up NATO. You have Romania, you have Poland, you have you know, all those other countries. Excuse me, all right, all my ignorance, but you have all those other countries, right? So, or France, you know, France is a bigger player in NATO. But yes, you have all these countries, interoperability is a big deal. So Palantir will be able to kind of web all that together, which again is a big deal. So, all right, moving on from Palantir. So Wedbush Securities, Dan Ives, I've covered him on this channel before. Anytime he has something to say, I just like to listen to it. Again, there's a couple of analysts on Wall Street I like to listen to. You have Fun Strats, Tom Lee. I listen to him, but again, he's a perma bull. He's always going to say the stock market goes up, right? Doesn't mean he's always right? None of these guys are always right, but I just like to hear what they have to say so I can take it and kind of use it as a data point for my own analysis, my own conclusions whenever I invest, right? So Palantir's NATO deal places it in prime position for AI and defense, all right, which we kind of already covered, but Wedbush Securities reiterated its outperform rating on the stock and its 12-month price target of $120. Palantir also remains a top name to own in 2025. We believe this deal, referencing the whole NATO thing, represents an additional tailwind for Palantir, with AI initiatives across both the US and European governments accelerating as AI remains a strategic focus on the federal front, with Palantir in essence in the sweet spot to benefit from a tidal wave of federal spending on AI across North America and Europe. So also one point that I did not, and I'm just thinking about it speaking out loud, but there was a clip of Trump saying that he's going to seek, or he's asking, or something like this. He wants to use basically $1 trillion for defense spending. Now, this is not defense spending like, because we have two things going on, right? We have Defense Secretary Hegseth, Peter Hegseth, who's trying to cut all this fat, trim all this fat from defense spending. But they're cutting the fat and moving the money or reallocating the money to more important priority areas, right? I've said this before, and it was just a little line in these articles, right? People just seem to forget that. But they looked at, people were like, oh, defense spending is getting cut. Palantir's price declined, right? Palantir's done, their share price is going down the tubes, all that other stuff. But now you have Trump that's also saying, hey, I'm looking for another additional $1 trillion to pump into the military. Okay, what do you think that means for someone like Palantir, right? Defense stocks. You have Raytheon. You have, there's a couple. There's Khaki. There's General Dynamics. There's V2X. You have a ton of these federal defense contracts. Boeing is another one. You have all these companies out there. And actually, fun fact, Boeing is going to be building the new F-47 or whatever, that new airplane, the next gen airplane for the military. So you have all these defense sectors or defense companies that are going to be, probably doing very, very well in these next couple of years. All right. Especially if tensions continue to rise on a macro scale, especially when we're looking at China, Taiwan, right? Or even Russia, Ukraine, right? We still have to keep that in the back of our minds. Okay. So U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent holds out hope for a China tariff deal, which I kind of covered earlier in the stream. Basically, he's warning that duties are not a joke, and there's nothing super in depth here, but like I was mentioning in the beginning of the stream, if we the messaging was, be tough on China. Now it's turning into China, the door's open if you want to have a conversation, right? Let's talk, right? And again, we could kind of surmise from this that the administration, the United States, does not want a prolonged tariff war or trade war with China. I mean, you have China and the United States are basically like this. They're leaning on each other. If one falls, the other one's going to fall. Both of our economies are the biggest in the world. So you have them leaning on each other. So again, in the next week, I suspect we'll hear something about, possible talks, at least a talk being scheduled in the future. I thought I saw that there was President Trump was trying to hold a call with President Xi Jinping, but I don't think, again, you have two very proud people that don't want to call each other, because they want the other one to call the other first, to have leverage, to be like, you came to me. So we're going to see who cracks first. But someone has to say something, right? Someone has to say, hey, let's both come to the table and have a conversation, and hopefully we can figure out this trade agreement stuff. So if those conversations happen, if we start seeing news in the media about that, I could see the stock market having a huge rally. So we'll see how that goes. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Excuse me. We're going to go through the stock market news, the stock market updates, and then we'll head into a portfolio update. All right. Because I do have some new purchases in my portfolio, which I will want to cover here in a moment. But the S&P 500 up 79 basis points. Thankfully, like I said, this was the pump and then the dump. Really discerning. I went to bed somewhere around here and I was like, man, this really sucks. I'm going to wake up to a bunch of red, but hey, 79 basis points. I'll take that. NASDAQ 100 up 57 basis points. Again, I'll take that. Bitcoin, just the wildest of rides. Bitcoin looks like it's staying above 80,000, right? So this is obviously going to be a huge tailwind for MicroStrategy. They're not going to be going bankrupt any moment soon, but huge tailwind for them. So again, anyone investing in a msty, tip my hat to you, respect. Anyone investing in Bitcoin long term, respect. I really think you guys will, make out like a bandit. Probably, I don't know if this will go to 150K like FunStrat's Tom Lee is saying, or how some other pundits out there are saying Bitcoin is going to go back up above 100K. I have no idea. I have no crystal ball. We still have the Federal Reserve speaking in May. There's all this talk or chatter about, a possible emergency Fed rate cut this month. I don't think that's going to happen. Again, I'm really believing that we're going to see that rate cut in May, but it's going to be a question of how large is that rate cut going to be, because CPI inflation numbers came down, which I should have included in this stream because that was the best of news. CPI inflation came down, right? I think we're hovering at like 2.4%, which is a fantastic thing. But of course, we don't know what impact, if any, that the tariffs are going to have on next month or the month after's report. So again, I think the Federal Reserve is really going to wait and see how that, kind of pans out. Gold, best performing asset year to date. Of course, they had the outflow happen. And I think this was because everyone was flocking to equities again to kind of take advantage of that. But it looked like it picked back up. And there was, a lot of scare in the markets about, bonds basically going into a crisis mode. There was this, and no one can confirm this. I haven't found anything that can confirm this, but there's a lot of chatter about China dumping U.S. treasuries, which caused the U.S. 10-year treasury to spike, which, is a bad thing. That is a very bad thing, right? But it looked like that was kind of a rumor or maybe a narrative that came out of just nowhere. Someone just wanted to place some blame on China. But again, it looks like we came down a bit for the 10-year, which is a total welcome sign, because I keep talking about this 10-year. People, I don't know. There was a YouTube video I posted in the Discord that kind of goes over this and why it's so important. And I really think people should pay attention to this 10-year thing. If this thing remained elevated for longer periods of time, that would definitely contribute to a recession, right? That absolutely would contribute to a recession. Now, I'm not saying this would be the only contributing factor to the recession. I'm just saying this would just add another nail to the coffin. But luckily, it looks like we're coming down. Again, the current administration is focused on bringing the 10-year down, which is a huge tailwind, because if we can get this down, then REITs will have a pop. Real estate will have a pop. There will be a lot of refinancing going on of debt, for corporations. So again, huge deal. This is why we have to bring this thing down. VNQ, Real Estate Index, the REIT Index ETF from Vanguard. So this one, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, man, you got to be kidding me. I can't have bear markets across all my damn holdings, right? So I was really pissed when this went down. This was a really steep decline, but it looks like we are starting to trend back up, thankfully. All right, because I was like, when you have several different sectors in your portfolio allocated to, either real estate, technology, or income focused ETFs, or, again, semiconductors, etc. And you're just in a huge bear market and everything's just trending downwards. It kind of just, makes you, think a little harder about your life and the decisions you made. But luckily, this is starting to trend back up. Again, I'm not basing anything like from these REITs on hopium. These were all my own individual picks. I know real estate very well. I'm, very, I won't say versed in real estate, but I really enjoy the asset class. I love the asset class and the ability for it to generate and create actual wealth. So I'm not too worried really in the long term about REITs, but in the short term, absolutely, of course, just like anyone else, volatility, it sucks. All right, so getting through all of that, we are looking good, guys. I'm going to go through some portfolio updates and then we'll close out the stream. All right. But real quick, let's take a look at that poll. So the question for today was, do you think we will have a huge 10% decline in the next 90 days? All right. 36% of you said yes. 36% of you said no. And then 25%. Oh, numbers changed. All right. Let me go back. Oh, someone keeps screwing with me now. Okay. So 33% said yes. 42% said no. And then 25% of you said, I don't want to think about it. And I'm going to agree with the 25%. I don't want to think about it. I can't stomach another 10% decline right now. I think I would probably get some more gray hair and pull out some hair, and definitely not sleep well at night. It's a wealthy life. Hey, good evening, man. Welcome back. All right. So excellent. Let's move on to the portfolio stuff. Okay. So this is going to lead me into the portfolio buy. Okay, so you guys know that I was looking at Soxel, right? I was like, oh, I could just buy this and, really, just ride this all the way to the top. I do like semiconductors, right? I really do like semiconductors, especially when thinking about this whole AI thesis and long-term growth. I'm like, okay, semiconductors is the next layer right under right under software, right? When you really look at it, it's right under software, software that's driving, artificial intelligence, things like OpenAI, things like Microsoft, things like Google. So the next best thing is the semiconductors. Everything has a semiconductor, right? Whether it's your phone, your watch, your smartwatch, your computer, your camera, everything has semiconductors in it, right? So I'm like, okay, I like semiconductors, but this direction is absolutely a wild ride, right? And talking with other people, they were like, holding direction is, long term is not a good idea, right? It is just not a good idea. It's great for short term plays, like, maybe a day, maybe a week. But holding it for long term, you start to have something called, time decay or theta decay. Don't quote me on any of this. Again, I'm still learning, just like most of you. But yes, I've heard that these things, they don't really track, the underliers well enough. So you'll have a lot of decay. So just because the stock goes up, 10% doesn't mean this is going to go up 10%, right? This could probably, this is a leverage, so this can probably go up 30%. But again, it's not a 1-for-1 track, right? So with all that in mind, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should stop it. I have a toxic relationship with Soxel. All right. I've been in and out of the position probably like 5 times, 6 times already. So let me just stop doing that. Right. So I was looking around and I'm like, okay, what else can I buy? Right. So I saw this in the chat, in the Discord chat. Someone had recommended SOX, right, which is the iShares Semiconductor ETF, right? You just buy SOX. Don't buy Soxel. Just buy SOX. I was like, okay, maybe that makes sense, right? The more I looked at this, I was like, especially in the portfolio on Robinhood, I'm like, this is more of an income portfolio. I don't really want to hold, growth, something that's going to grow without providing some type of income. This is why I really like those roundhill weekly pay ETFs, because they're 1-2x levered. So you're going to get the growth, you're going to get uncapped growth, but they're also going to provide some type of income, some type of distribution, right? So I really like those products, but I couldn't find anything like that until recently. Right. So then I found cepi, right? I found cepi from yieldmax. It's a semiconductor portfolio option income ETF. And again, you guys have heard me say it on this channel, and I'm not scared to admit this, but I've said I would really always stay away from yieldmax, right? For one reason or another. However, this one, it kind of excited me, right? The more I looked into it, and I'm going to tell you guys why, right? So first, this is cepi. This is yieldmax option income ETF. And there's an objective. So most yieldmax ETFs, again, you can believe it's the boogeyman, whatever. But there's something called NAV erosion, right? It's basically the new flat earth, right? That is the new flat earth. Do people believe in NAV erosion, or do they not believe in NAV erosion? So, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, let me take a look at this and see what's happening. I'm a believer of NAV erosion. Do not get NAV erosion mixed up with share price decline. Okay. A lot of people, that I've seen in some other communities or even on YouTube were like, oh, this is NAV decline or NAV erosion. Like, no, that's not NAV erosion. The entire market is down. So that is not NAV erosion. That's just NAV decline. All right. The entire market, the underlier is going into the toilet. But anyways, okay. So cepi is an actively managed ETF, and it seeks current income and capital appreciation. And that's what I like. All right. These two words, this is what I like: current income and capital appreciation, versus their other cover call ETFs where they're saying that you're capped on the appreciation. They changed the literature, and definitely the prospectuses for these ones, because they're seeking current income, capital appreciation on a weekly basis, which is a big deal for me. All right. This whole portfolio is based for income and income only. So I want to try to limit the growth, specific stocks that are in this portfolio, unless there's some type of income component. All right. So this is going to make up a portfolio of 15 to 30 semiconductor companies. All right. That is also very, very important. Again, the semiconductor space, there's a lot of players, but we have a lot of problems. Okay. We still have a lot of uncertainty. Trump initiates the trip and drug probes ahead of more tariffs. Okay. So yes, there's a pause on tariffs, and specifically now there's new narratives coming out saying, no. The tariffs, we're going to do sector tariffs. Okay. There's going to be sector tariffs. So now there's going to be tariffs possibly on chips, possibly on semiconductors and things of that sort. So how do you navigate all of this? Right. So how do you navigate all of this? So I'm not going to go through this whole article, but basically from Bloomberg, President Donald Trump's administration pressed forward with plans to impose tariffs on semiconductors and pharmaceutical imports by initiating trade probes led by the Commerce Department. All right. And again, all these links, everything will be down below in the description for you guys. If I didn't get it right now, I will include it at the end of the stream. So anyways, the more I think about this, I'm like, okay, how can I navigate this? Because this would be really crappy if you get into an ETF that's primarily global, right? It has a lot of global companies. So I looked at Cepi and I looked at their holdings, and these were the holdings, right? So I broke it down for you guys. I hope you can see this. So these are the actual holdings, right? ACM Research, Analog Devices, Applied Materials, AMD, ASML, which actually ASML is a fantastic company. I really think people should check out that video that Citizen of the Year did on ASML. Fantastic video, right? Covers exactly what they do. They hold pretty much the market. They cornered the market in their manufacturing. Fantastic video. Then you have Broadcom, Intel, Lam Research. I've never even heard of Lattice. I've heard of Microchip, Micron Technology, of course, NVIDIA, of course, but you have NXP Semiconductors and Taiwan Semiconductors, which is actually building a factory in the United States. So they're kind of like a 50-50 deal. But look at the origin of these companies. Most of them are in the US. All right. Again, I'm not betting against the United States. I'm going to invest in companies in the United States. So this made Cepi all the more favorable, all the more, nice, right? I like Cepi because of the holdings. So keeping this in mind, because if anything was to happen, right, I don't see China in here. I don't see, any opponents to the United States in here. So I'm like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of US based companies in this ETF. So I can't see too much headwinds in the future from this. Maybe with exporting. Of course, with exporting to China, that's obviously the biggest deal. They're one of our biggest trade partners. They are going to use a lot of the semiconductors for a lot of their own technologies. So I could see that, right? So I could see that being a huge impact, a huge headwind. But for a tailwind, if a trade agreement is reached between the United States and between China, I could see Cepi also going really, really high in share price. All right. I don't want to say parabolic because the semiconductor space is right now a little volatile. But if a trade agreement is worked out and if it's favorable, I could see Cepi doing exceptionally well in the near term, probably in the next 3 to 6 months. So meanwhile, while I wait, I will just be collecting some type of weekly income. I have no idea how much that's going to be. All right. This thing only came out earlier this month in April, right? Came out April 2nd. So it hasn't been out for that long at all, really. So we'll see what it does, how it performs. Right now on Robinhood, it has about 100% maintenance ratio. So, that's not very desirable, but neither did the weekly pays from Roundhill, NVW or PLTW, but then they lowered it to 30%, right? And even during all this market volatility, they never increased those two holdings over that, right? Over or back to 70%, back to 100%. So really thankful there. So for Cepi, I think, again, there's a lot of tailwind there. There's a lot of opportunity there. So I'm going to hold this and just see what happens, right? Again, I have this thesis for AI that anything involved in AI is going to boom over these next 4 to 10 years or 4, 6, 10 years, whatever you want to number it as. So again, really bullish on semiconductors. So this all plays into this whole Stargate project. Okay. And you guys heard me say this and talk about this. And again, I just want to bring this up to you guys. All right. This is a huge collaboration between OpenAI, NVIDIA, Microsoft, and probably a ton of other AI players, right? CoreWeave, you have now Foxconn, you have Taiwan Semiconductor. Everyone who's going to be involved in this is going to profit, right? So the Stargate project is a new company which intends to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years building new AI infrastructures for OpenAI in the United States. And they already have a new data center coming online in May. So again, keeping that, just keeping that in mind. You still have the current administration, very favorable to AI, wants to deregulate a lot of it, create the wild, wild west, create innovation, allow for research and development. Again, these are all tailwinds. And this is why I think Cepi long-term would benefit from a lot of this. All those semiconductors would benefit. And not only that, when I was deciding what I wanted to do, when I wanted to figure out what, to actually invest into, I didn't want another single stock exposed ETF, like the roundhills. I really wanted another just broad ETF, and this one fit that perfectly. All right. If other companies, whether it's Roundhill or Kurv or anyone else, if they had an ETF that was similar to this, I would have rather had went with them, but it was hard to find anything relatively close to this that I liked. So I went with cepi again because of the exposure to more US companies than anything. And you still have ASML in there, from the Netherlands, and you still have Taiwan Semiconductors, which honestly is moving a lot of their stuff to the United States. If ASML moves their stuff to the United States for onshoring, that's a good game at that point. The United States owns the monopoly on semiconductors. So that's a good game right there. So anyways, let's look at the portfolio and show you guys some numbers. Okay, so this is it. We have, well, let me check the chat real quick. Let's see. Yep, Senpai says, I ain't touching no yield max. I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. I feel dirty. And I put this in the Discord. I felt dirty when I bought this thing. I'm like, ew, like I can't believe I'm actually buying this. But again, like really looking under the hood, I'm like, this is probably one of the better funds. And not only that, there's, certain community I'm sure we're both, familiar with. They're not talking about this, right? They're not talking about this at all. So this might actually be a good thing. So I'm really bullish on semiconductors in general, but I wanted some type of income component. And again, if there's a better one out there, I want you guys to send it to me in the chat or something, because I'd really like to hear your thoughts on it. But I just couldn't find anything. If Kurv or Roundhill had something similar, I would have bought that over yieldmax 100%. All right, but again, I don't know. There wasn't anything I could find, and I wanted to buy in now while prices are still kind of depressed. So anyways, Cony Finance says, ever heard of income shares? I have heard of income shares. I never really covered them on this channel. Maybe that's something I need to look into. It's a Wealthy Life says the best AI play is Tesla, period. Man, I hope you're going to have to eat your words if Tesla takes another nosedive, man. But yeah, it's a Wealthy Life. Tesla bull. He's probably the next best thing to Tom Lee. That's just a Tesla bull, period. Or is it Tom Lee or is it Dan Ives? It's one of those two guys. Yeah. Chippy from Alex. Me and Alex were having a conversation in Discord, and he's the one who really said, hey man, you should invest in Chippy. Like yieldmax is the best. I trust yieldmax. You should definitely go with yieldmax. No, I'm just kidding. But but me and Alex did have a pretty decent conversation about semiconductor funds and technology ETFs. So I got a lot of value from our conversation. So I really appreciated that. Crouchy Tiger calls it cheapy. Yeah, maybe it is. It's now cheapy to buy right now. That's funny. It's a Wealthy Life says, I love ASML. That company is sick. You guys are insane buying the dark side of the stock market. These option ETFs, bro. We are the dark side. Like this whole portfolio on Robinhood is the dark side, right? But you can go even further and maybe there's like an extreme to like, for any Star Wars nerd fans out there, maybe this is like the extreme Sith, right? The extreme side of the Sith way. Yeah, this is like the darker side. So yeah, again, I don't feel comfortable buying yieldmax, but this chippy one might be a little different. We will see. Hopefully it does not suffer from this whole, flat earth theory of NAV erosion. I'm very hopeful it doesn't. I think maybe they turned a cheek on these ones. I was looking at GPTY just to kind of get an idea of how it's been performing. I did notice that the dividend income started declining during when the market started declining. So again, take that with a grain of salt. Maybe it's an omen of things to come for Chippy or Cheapy. But again, I'm trying to look at this as objectively and unbiased as possible. Again, I don't like yieldmax, but again, even I have to take a step back and be like, there's biases there. And I think having deep-rooted biases can make you have make some really big mistakes. Being way too bullish on something. Or hating something when really it's a good thing. So I really had to take a step back and look at it as objectively as possible. But again, looking at chippy or cheapy, I think it is a good play in the long term. Let's see. Alex said, I did not say that. I'm gonna screenshot the quotes next time. B Semiconductor in Belgium. I'm not sure what you mean, Cony Finance. Let's see. It's a Wealthy Life says, should I sell some Tesla deep out of the money calls? Why do it and then post? Wealthy Life, I don't know if if you have Discord, man, but you should definitely join our Discord, man. I would love to have you aboard. Again, you're a Tesla bull, so you know sometimes we need that. We need that kind of energy. Men to play's got to do it. Certified Freak says that's what yieldmax wants you to think. Ooh. That chart's going to go down to the right. Very possible. Very, very, very possible. And again, I'm going to be here for it and I'll be experimenting with it and you guys will see it firsthand. If this is a mistake, it is what it is. I'm already down to the right. Look, I'm already negative $14 and I just bought it. So, but you know, semiconductors all in all were down yesterday. So it is what it is. Cody, welcome. He says Misty to the moon. Man, you missed my whole thing about Misty and MicroStrategy. But anyways, I don't know if you were here for that or not. Crouching Tiger says, I made 900 on Tesla put premium today. Yeah, it's a Wealthy Life. Yeah, it's down below. If you check the description of this video, it is in that description. So, you know, it is there if any lurkers on this channel want to check it out. All right. So anyways, let me go down this stuff real quick. So this is chippy. I bought this in, of course, at an all-time high. I wanted to wait until after 10:30 Eastern Standard or about 11:30 Eastern Standard. But yeah, I was like, man, I was running on like 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I was like, I got to get some damn sleep. I'm not going to wait for this. I could have set a buy order, but of course I didn't know really like what my price entry was going to be. For all I know, this could have spiked a lot further up and to the right, and I would have missed out on all that. So I was like, you know what? I'll just buy it and just call it a day. So I bought it at about $47.50, if I'm not mistaken, was my initial. Let's see, where is it? Oh, what do you know? My average cost basis went down a little bit. I think that, yeah, I bought some additional shares this morning as well. I don't remember. But anyways, $47.32. I know some other people in the Discord, CKK got in, I think at like $46.80, if I'm not mistaken. So congratulations to him for making that purchase. He went in heavier than I did. I think he went with 100 shares. I went with 80. So that's crazy, man. Hey man, we're in this together at this point. All right. We're in this together at this point. All right. We're basically bonded by money. So anyways, yeah, basically this is it. All right. 100% maintenance ratio. And this was the purchase I made yesterday. Again, PLTW had a great day, up $1,500 for the day. NVDA didn't do so well. Right. I think that is, of course, the whole semiconductor news. The stuff keeps changing. You have, you know, we'll call him Chad. We had Chad Lutnick, you know, saying that, yeah, we're going to be good. And then his messaging like was completely off from the president, completely off. So I think that kind of confused markets a bit. And, you know, NVIDIA was not spared from that, or Chippy was not spared from that. OnDesk, you guys already know, that's probably the closest thing to a meme stock I'm holding in this portfolio. NVW, of course, didn't do well. XPay, XDT, you know, recovering. I'm a little disappointed in XDT, especially when we had that big pump and then XDT did horrible. But XPay looks like it's recovered fairly well compared to XDTE during that initial pump. So again, just going to hold these until forever. Because the reason why, and I created a video, I created a video over the weekend about weak in SGov, and basically, you know, using treasuries is like your core position. That is essentially what XPay and XDTE is, because I can't picture, you know, these two ETFs, one going to zero, but not only that, they're tied to the S&P 500, right? So at that time, the thinking was, okay, well, unless they go down more than like 40%, which I can't see, or more than 35%, I can't see that happening. I should be safe or shielded from a margin call. Of course, Murphy's Law is a bitch. So we had this black swan event where, the president was like, hey, we're going to be slapping tariffs on everybody. And then I was not spared from that. But luckily, didn't get margin called. But these are the core positions for this portfolio. The treasury idea, the more I look at it, the more it does have some legs, but it has legs depending on what the investor wants to do or how they want to structure it. Okay, that is the biggest part in all of that. There's a lot of talk, especially from some other communities that we know and love, that were like, oh, let's just all buy SGov right now with established portfolios and then, take margin against it. That was the stupidest thing I ever heard. So I had to make a video about it, and I'm glad I did because I actually learned from someone else who could be the creator of that strategy, basically talking about why or their methodology for it, and it does make sense for a certain type of investor. So anyways, I need to shut up. I've been blabbing on, but this is the portfolio update for Robinhood. All right, this is all income ETFs. So I'm not going to do any more growth in this thing. I was doing a little bit of SOXO here and there. No more of that. It's just going to be income ETFs. So right now I have PLTW, Chippy, NVW, which are weekly pays, which I think is really cool. That was not by design. That was all completely by accident. Most of this is all Roundhill. Again, if Roundhill had a freaking Chippy variant or something like a semiconductor ETF that paid weekly or even monthly, I would have hopped in that. Like for sure, I would have hopped in that. Let's see. And then let's hop into M1 Finance and we'll take a look at that portfolio. Alex says, SGov on March is a great idea. What are you talking about? Absolutely. Let me just check the comments real quick. I forgot where I left off. Msty to the moon and made 900 on Tesla puts. BDCs. Yes, BDCs have actually been taking kind of a beating recently. I think there's some good price entries for BDCs, at least in my opinion. Blackstone lending BXSL has been on my radar, but I just don't have any money in this portfolio to really spare at the moment. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of dumb things said in this space. That's a fact. I mean, I'm not free from it all either. I've said some pretty stupid things too, so the only difference is that I showcase my mistakes and I'm showcasing my portfolio. So if I F up so bad, everyone's going to see it. There's no hiding it. Right. But again, that's all about transparency. And I'm all about that. So it is what it is. I mean, you got to learn from your mistakes. I will say that, looking back on everything, there was a point when we were at all-time lows and it looked like we were going to go lower where I was like, man, I should have not even taken margin and I should have put VGT. I should have did like a 50-50 VGT and some type of treasury or bond, right? I'm all thinking like you think when you're at your worst in your portfolio and everything's crashing, like all these what if scenarios come up, but it is what it is at this point. Anyways, Latra, I don't think I've seen you on the channel, so welcome. Just rotated to some YieldMax, another high div, and other dividend portfolio. Now has around 50% yield. Have to manage the underliers. Yeah, that's a big one. And good luck on the YieldMax stuff. There's a lot of people in this chat that are not favorable to YieldMax. So good luck. All right, good luck on a lot of that. I hope those work out well for you. You got to be really careful, like you said, and make sure you understand those underliers. But I think it's also a mechanic of the ETFs themselves, right? The mechanic of the ETF themselves. Like I will say the msty does do well if MSTR is doing well, like, right? Like that makes sense. That's how it should be. But if you look at like tsly, which everyone picks on, but if you look at like tsly, it's just been on a steady decline. Like there is no recovery for this ETF period in terms of like NAV price. Of course you can always talk about, total return this or total return that, dividend reinvestment this, or taking the dividend and reinvest, or reinvesting that into other ETFs, blah, blah, blah. You could do all of that. But if you look on it just on a share price perspective, it's just been on a steady decline. And I mean, I'm not for that, period. Me personally, I'm not for that. You can't trick me about this whole total return thing. From Austin, Texas. All right. That's what's up. All right, guys. So we're pretty much at the top of the hour. I'm going to just cover this real fast. Again, REITs, we are in the green. Thankfully, we had a steep decline, but it looks like we're back in action. We're back in the green. this has been the biggest loser so far, and it's a technology ETF VGT from Vanguard. I bought this at all-time highs, and then the market started crashing. So this was down pretty much, I think 40 something, as low as like $44,000. I think I took a screenshot, because you take screenshots over profits. So I was able to get a screenshot of that. I will have to share that at some point. But yeah, again, one for the memory bank. That was like absolutely shitty to go through, to buy at all-time highs, and then the portfolio basically crash. So really, really scary, but it looks like we're on the uptrend. So again, got to hold for the long term at this point. BDCs, business development companies, I don't cover them too much on this channel. They're very complex. It's not just, oh, high yield and share price and me buy, right? Like that's not how you should look at BDCs. There's a lot that goes into BDC analysis. I try to read some of this stuff, especially like on Seeking Alpha, and I can't even grasp a lot of it. Like it's hard to grasp, but I do know that as far as like something to buy right now, I do like the Blackstone Lending BXSL BDC. I think I forget what the moving average was, but yeah, the share price is below that. And I think it's a good opportunity to buy or pick up a couple of shares at least. So outside of that, crypto ETF, I'm just in Bitcoin IBIT. So I don't really want to do the whole freaking wallet, cold storage, hot storage, all that other crap. I'd rather just buy the ETF version and just call it a day. Again, I at one point I had accounts on Kraken, I had accounts on Binance, accounts on crypto.com, accounts Robinhood, like I had all this crap, Coinbase, and I'm like, I need to consolidate stuff. And I ended up selling out of a lot of those shit coins. So now I'm just like, it's just strictly Bitcoin at this point, and it's an ETF version because I'm not doing all these wallets. I don't care about the whole keys, not your wallet thing. If you own it in an ETF version, unless Fidelity goes in the toilet, or unless iShares, / BlackRock go in the toilet, or unless Coinbase goes in the toilet, I think the Bitcoin is fairly safe, in my opinion. All right, well, guys, that's going to do it for me. I think I've been speaking a lot. Right now is Songkran here in Thailand, which is a massive water gun fight. It is a big water gun fight. Actually, let me just share that with you guys. I don't know if you care, but I'm not going to the gym today. I royally screwed up my lower back, so I'm taking it easy for now. When you deadlift, make sure you deadlift correctly. So let's just take a quick look for those who might be interested in Songkran. Because Songkran is basically like a water festival here in Thailand. It's really, really fun. I haven't experienced one myself, and today I'm actually going to be going into Bangkok and basically bringing my vest and everything, and my backpack full of water, and I'm going to go all in on this because this does look like a lot of fun. All right, I've only heard about these things, but they are a lot of fun. This is, I think, Khao San, maybe Khao San Road. I think so. But yeah, it's just everything with a bunch of water guns just shooting at each other. Like you can't be mad with this. This looks like a ton of fun. Everyone's just like going crazy. Yeah, I'm actually really excited. I'm really, really excited. So the thing is, they close a lot of the roads down, so it's hard to kind of get around. So we have to hop on like an MRT, like a bus or a train or something to get there. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And everyone's
Happy
just
Songkran, everyone.
like soaking each other
Sawadee
with
from
water.
Bangkok. Today is the day.
Everyone's just soaking each other with water. Now there are rules here. Like you can get fined. Like if I'm walking and I don't want to get wet, I have to, I guess, announce it some way and tell people I don't want to get wet. But of course, how can you stop this, right? How can you not get wet in something like this? The whole city is going crazy with water guns. But basically, you could get fined if you wet somebody that doesn't want to get wet. So someone like in a business suit, doesn't want to get wet. Someone with a bunch of Louis, Gucci, and Fenty and Prada product on them probably doesn't want to get wet. So got to be careful with that stuff. Yep, Sawadee Cup. Yeah, I tell you guys, I love Thailand. I don't go out enough. I don't do enough. I'm really like a homebody. I'm really lazy. But I just love this culture. I just absolutely love this city. I love this culture. There's always something to do. I went to like the Bangkok Aquarium the other day. You know, me, a friend, and the girl, and we went out there, had a ton of fun. It was just nice to go into the city. And there's food everywhere. Like you cannot starve in this city. There's just food all over the damn place. I don't really do a lot of travel vlogging on this channel because it's a finance channel, and I don't want this to turn into like a travel vlog. I have toyed with the idea of doing like Saturday videos, like if I go out into Thailand or go out in the city or something, I'll kind of document that for you guys and put it out there. But or maybe I'll just make it a Discord specific thing, because I don't know. I just don't want the channel to like turn into Thailand, right? Because there's enough of those out there, and I don't really go out enough to make enough content for Thailand, for Thailand videos. Julio, welcome, man. What's up, man? Citizen says, teach Julio about Thailand. He's uncultured. No, Julio's not uncultured. He is very cultured in this way of life. Too many conversations we've had already about Thailand. Yeah, you need to vlog on this channel. I mean, I don't know. Again, I might vlog. I might do a vlog here and there or something. Maybe I'll I don't know. I might just keep it in the Discord, to be honest. I really, because I just don't want the algorithm to get screwed up for my channel. You own a water buffalo? Man, fuck no way. That is so cool. My water buffalo, she's sick. She's sick. You already know. You guys already know. Some of y'all already know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this is Songkran, so I have that on the docket for today. So hopefully my back doesn't fling out again and I fall to the floor. Yeah, back pain is a total B word. Yeah, so they have these buckets all over the place, so you can fill up water. So like if you have a water gun, you can just go there, fill up your water. I don't even know if I think most of it is free. I don't think you pay for it at all, really. And you're just going around soaking people. So I got this nice little like t-shirt. It's got like a teddy bear on it with a water gun, so I'm really excited about that. I'm gonna be wearing that and going out in town. I have to buy my water gun. I looked at a couple models yesterday. I felt like it was a video game. Like you walk in, it's like choose your weapon. But yeah, they're selling water guns all over this place, like everywhere. Took it right in the face. This is cool. This is cool. I can't wait to get out in the city and do some of this. Anyways, guys, that is gonna do it for me. I am gonna go and get ready, finish off my coffee. I know it's late Eastern Standard Time. It's about bedtime for a lot of you guys. So I appreciate you joining me in the stream and sitting with me talking finance. And outside of that, without you guys, this stream wouldn't exist. So I really, really do appreciate you guys chilling with me and going through the news. So with that being said, I will see you guys in the next stream. You guys have a wonderful night, a wonderful day, wherever you are in the world. Take care.